"You really don't have to go to this party, James," Sarah said with a smile that, for the first time in 25 years, felt fake. Little did I know then that in 72 hours our perfect life on the shores of Lake Arlington would be reduced to ashes. I trusted her more than I trusted myself, but that phrase wasn't a worry. It was a warning shot that I ignored. My name is James Wilson. I'm 46, and I've always considered myself lucky. Sarah and I have been together since 4th grade. You know, the same story about first love, graduation, the University of Texas, a small rented apartment where we counted every cent. Today, we have it all. A $2 million house, a successful career. She's a top designer, I'm an account manager with an income of $500,000 a year, and a daughter, Emma, of whom we are proud. From the outside, we seemed like the embodiment of the American dream. Sarah had always been special, a blonde with piercing blue eyes who seemed to never age. She was a star wherever we went, and I was proud to be the same guy next to her. But something had changed recently. Breakfasts had become quieter. Conversations about work had become superficial. I had chalked it up to fatigue, age, whatever, until the subject of her ad agency's annual party came up. She had said it 3 times that week. "You don't have to go." Her voice was soft, but her insistence was unsettling. For the first time in a quarter of a century, I felt like I was no longer needed in her life. I decided not to argue. I simply nodded. But inside, a cold, clammy fear had settled. I had decided to show up unannounced. And what I saw when I opened the door to that hall made me regret ever being born. I went anyway. Saturday night was the beginning of the end. Sarah looked incredible. A little black dress that flattered her figure perfectly, her blonde hair falling to her shoulders, a twinkle in her eye. But now I saw something I hadn't noticed before. She wasn't just going to a party. She was cooking. When we walked into the room, I could feel it with my skin. People weren't just greeting her. They smiled too long, and their eyes were heavy, as if they all knew some dirty secret that I, a legal man, didn't even know about. And then he appeared. Ryan Davis, 50 years old, gray hair, a perfect suit, and the confidence of the man who owned the place. He approached Sarah as if she were his trophy. She introduced him as an advertising agent, but their handshake. It wasn't business. It was the touch of lovers. She kissed me quickly on the cheek, a gesture that seemed less affectionate than an attempt to shut me up. I hadn't had a drop of alcohol all evening. I needed a cool head. I had become a shadow at this party, watching every inch of their interaction. How often did her eyes search for Ryan in the crowd? How close was he to her? How did his hand linger on her waist for a second longer than etiquette allowed? Even when we danced, Sarah wasn't with me. Every time I circled her, she would look over my shoulder to the edge of the dance floor, where Ryan stood with that cocky, disgusting smile. He was challenging me. The climax came at the bar. I was only a few feet away, hidden by a column. Ryan approached her again. Their conversation was quiet, intense. Sarah looked at him with a pleading look I hadn't seen in years. I read her lips. She didn't say, "my boss," or "Ryan." She whispered, "The world around me just disappeared." Darling? That word belonged to me. That word had been ours for 25 years. In that moment I realized, I'm not just a guest at this party. I'm an obstacle they're waiting to clear away. The drive home was the longest of my life. I could feel my colleagues' eyes on me, eyes filled with pity, as if I were the hero of a joke who would be the last to know about the horns. "What's going on between you and Ryan?" I asked in the car. My voice was shaking, though I tried to keep it in check. She just laughed, lightly, effortlessly. "James, you're paranoid. He's just a co-worker." It was too smooth, too rehearsed. That night, as she lay next to me, pretending to be asleep, I realized I didn't need her words. I needed evidence that couldn't be denied. For the next few days, Sarah played the role of the perfect wife. She cooked my favorite dishes, laughed at my jokes. It was disgusting. Every kiss she gave me was a lie. I hired Mark Sullivan, a professional who doesn't ask questions. I told him, "Turn her life inside out." It only took Mark a week. The first batch of photos was like a punch in the gut. Here's my wife checking into a cheap motel with Ryan. They don't look guilty. They look happy, like it's their usual routine. In another photo, they're kissing in a parking lot, greedily, openly, unafraid of anyone. But I didn't stop. I told Mark to dig deeper. I wanted to know everything. The reports kept piling up, photos, videos, audio recordings. But it wasn't the sex that broke my heart. One audio recording finished me off. I heard her laughing with Ryan. She joked about being an office wife and how easy it was to cheat on me. "James would never guess," she said in her soft voice. "He's too busy with work and too stupid to see the obvious." She wrote me off. To her, I was just a convenient fool paying for her lavish lifestyle. I sat in my car for an hour when Mark handed me the full report. I flipped through the pages, stared at her face in the photo, and couldn't believe that this was the same woman I'd spent 25 years with. That night I got home and acted as I always did. I watched her every move. It was crazy to see how skillfully she pretended. But the next morning, the game was over. We sat down to breakfast. She poured me coffee and smiled. That's when I put a thick white envelope on the table. I set the plate of scrambled eggs in front of her. My voice was as calm as ice. "Sarah, you would never betray me, would you?" She froze. Her fork stopped halfway to her mouth. "Of course not," she exclaimed too abruptly. "Why are you even asking that?" I didn't argue. I simply pulled out the first photo and slowly pushed it across the table. I watched the paint drain from her face, then the second, the third. Shock turned to panic. "Albert, it's not what you think," she stammered. "It's just physiology. I don't love him. It doesn't mean anything." I leaned toward her, almost touching her face. "It means to me, the next few hours were hell." She poured oceans of excuses on me. "It's just an affair. I've always loved only you. I was afraid of losing you." But something inside me cracked. 25 years of trust shattered into pieces that could no longer be put back together. I went to work just to avoid seeing her. I wanted to immerse myself in numbers so I wouldn't go crazy. But then the phone rang. Emma, my little girl, the light of my life. I thought her voice would save me. "Dad?" Her voice was shaky. "I just spoke to my mom. She's hysterical. Why did you kick her out of the house?" I froze. I hadn't even had time to kick her out yet, but Sarah had already made herself the victim. "Emma, listen," I tried to be honest. "Your mother cheated on me for over a year. With Ryan. I was waiting for words of support, for crying, for anything. But not this. Dad, it's not the end of the world," she sighed. I thought I had misheard. "It's not the end of the world? She's been lying to me for 12 months. Dad, it's the 21st century. Her tone became instructive and cold. People cheat. It happens. Men do it all the time, and no one makes a fuss. I never cheated on your mother, I shouted, feeling my blood boil. Well, maybe I should have, she snapped. Then you wouldn't be such a bore. Just calm down and let your mother come back. She's your wife. She loves you. I stood in the middle of the office and felt the ground give way. My own child, whom I had invested my whole soul in, was defending the betrayal. It was a second knife, stuck in exactly the same place as the first. But Emma wasn't finished yet. The next words were like hot iron. By the way, Dad, she added as calmly as if we were discussing the weather. I know Ryan. He's a great guy. Mom and I thought he should be at my wedding. What? My voice broke into a scream. He's important to Mom, Emma snapped. And, to be honest, I like him too. Maybe he could even walk Mom down the aisle with you. In that moment I realized my daughter no longer exists. There's only a copy of her mother. If Ryan is at your wedding, Emma, my voice went dead, then I won't be there. Choose him or me. Let him play the role of father of the bride, because I'm out of the game. I hung up the phone. My hands were shaking, but my mind was finally clear. 1645, Kant 1730. Cynicism without limits. That night, Sarah made her final mistake. She came to the bedroom all in tears, begging for a chance. I want to fix this, Albert, she whispered. But I also want to keep seeing Ryan. You're going to have to accept this. We can be a modern family. I looked at her and saw a monster. Sarah, I said quietly, it's time for you to go. Forever. 1730, 1830. The beginning of the big game. Did they think they could humiliate me, take away my home, my holiday, and my dignity? They were wrong. Decades of working with big money had taught me to calculate my steps ahead. Sarah was a design genius, but she was a baby with money. She didn't even know where our investment documents were. That was my advantage. 1830, 1930. Financial judgment. While Sarah was planning her date with Ryan, I was acting. 1. Offshore, I transferred the lion's share of our savings to accounts she would never know about. 2. House trap. She bragged to her friends that our $2 million house was completely paid off. It was true, until this week. I took out a huge loan against the house. 3. Car. Even her brand new BMW was part of the plan. I mortgaged it, taking out $40,000 in cash. The sweetest part? I put all the new debt in her name. Thanks to my connections and her power of attorney, which she signed years ago without looking, I had put millions in debt on her. 1930 to 20. Mask of Peace. All this time I played the role of a broken man trying to come to terms. I smiled at her over breakfast while, behind the scenes, I tightened the noose around her financial neck. She thought she would get both a lover and my money. Little did she know that she would soon be on the streets, and Ryan would be the first to run when he found out she was broke. Sarah believed my words about trying to fix things. She was so happy, so smug, as if she had won the jackpot. Every night she spent at Ryan's motel, I used to tighten the noose around her neck even tighter. At the same time, at work, I was offered a golden parachute, $500,000 in severance pay in connection with the merger of companies. I took the money without hesitation, transferring it to my offshore account. Emma's wedding. Her dream. I called the planner. I won't pay for anything else, I said coldly. Let your bride ask her office dad for help. The planner was shocked, but I didn't care. Emma had made her choice. Her payback was inevitable. The final touch, I slipped Sarah fake life insurance documents saying that this was a new bonus from her company. One evening, when she was already under the temperature after a few glasses of wine, I gave them to her to sign. She signed without reading, without noticing that they were documents that completed my financial manipulations and transferred all the debts to her. In 2 months, I had turned her life into ruins. And then I disappeared. The house, the car, the mountains of debt, all this was now her problem. The bank would soon be knocking on the door, but I would be gone. The hardest thing was to keep up that mask. Every breakfast, every word she said about our future, about her plans, it was agony. But I smiled. I waited. On the last day, I handed in my badge, packed my small bag, and left, without a single glance back. She thought she had outsmarted me. She didn't know I was 5 steps ahead. A week after I disappeared, the storm began. The bank contacted Sarah. She was in absolute shock. For years, she had lived under the illusion that the house was paid off. Now she was $2 million in debt. BMW. Same thing. Without my salary, she couldn't pay. I'm sure she rushed to Ryan, but Ryan had her own problems. His wife, whom I had pushed to the truth, filed for divorce. She took the house, most of the assets, and got him fired from the advertising agency. It turned out she was a major shareholder and knew how to pull strings. Ryan, the former king, was now working as a taxi driver. Emma's life was also turning to dust. I called Michael, her fiancé. I told him the whole truth. I even sent him a copy of Mark Sullivan's report. I told him how his future mother-in-law had cheated, how Emma had protected her, and how they wanted Ryan to walk her down the aisle, maybe even with me. Michael was furious. He immediately broke off the engagement. His family, very conservative, could not allow such a scandal. Emma lost not only the wedding, but also her fiancé. All her dreams of a happy, secure future were shattered to pieces. I, James Wilson, now sat somewhere on the ocean shore, far from this hell. She had taken my home, my family, and my dignity. But I had taken everything from her. And not only from her. I had become the embodiment of justice, which they so despised. It was revenge, cold, calculated, and absolutely ruthless. And I regretted nothing. Michael, Emma's fiancé, didn't just hear my story. I sent him an audio recording of Emma saying, "It's the 21st century, Dad. Cheating is normal." For Michael, who believed in family values, this was the point of no return. He broke off the engagement that same night. No wedding, no rich man, no luxurious life. Emma was left at the broken trough. Without my money and Michael's support, she was forced to move in with her mother. Now the two of them huddle in a shabby 2-bedroom apartment in the worst part of town. It's all Sarah could afford to rent after the bank took her house and BMW. But I wanted her to experience the full flavor of her freedom. I sent copies of her adventures with Ryan to her boss. The advertising agency didn't want to deal with someone whose reputation had turned to dirt. She was fired. Last I heard, the former graphic design star was now delivering orders at a roadside cafe. What about me? I had left for Florida, where the sun burns away old memories. I bought a pickup truck and a trailer, all for cash, registered in my cousin's name so as to leave no trace for bailiffs or Sarah's lawyers. My money is safely stashed offshore, and my new job at a reputable company gives me exactly the kind of traffic I want. Sometimes I hear rumors. Ryan works for a pittance. Sarah and Emma fight every day in that cramped apartment, blaming each other for their misery. Do I feel sorry for them? They made their choice that night when they decided I was an empty place. They considered my kindness a weakness and my love a folly. Today I wake up with a clear head. No more lies at breakfast, no more fake smiles, no more feeling like a stranger lives in my house. Yes, I lost the family I spent 25 years building. But in return, I gained something that